In this session, we're going to look at dynamic ledger departments. Now, before I take you to company details in the Enterprise tab, I want to show you what the ledger looks like without dynamic departments. If you go to Ledger and Cash Book Postings, you will see that we've got our branch control on. In other words, we'll select a branch when we process a transaction, but we don't have a department here. If you switch dynamic departments on, you'll have an extra field here. So at this stage, with the option off, all you have to specify is your branch. For which branch, in other words, are you processing the transaction? The same would be if you go to your batch journals. We only have the branch option here. If we now go to company details, enterprise setting, and we specify enable dynamic ledger departments, you can add your ledger departments here, or you can do it under module parameters. Let me show you. I've got a few options here already. I'm going to click on the option that says click to maintain. So I now have a lot of departments within each of my branches. So I've got an accounting department, I've got an HR department, I've got a marketing department. In other words, if I now process advertising, I can specify for which department would this advertising expense be. I have left our default option there. Okay. So all I now can do is I choose the default. We'll leave that as is, but when you process the actual transaction, you could choose from the list. Let me show you. If I say accept and yes, and we now go to our cash book postings option, you will immediately see we've got this extra field. So what you now do is you select your date. In my case, I'll say it's a GL transaction. I'll choose advertising. Now I choose the branch. I'll say it is for head office and which department within the head office. We'll say that this was for the HR department. You have your reference. You now specify who you are paying for your advertising, and then you specify the amount. If you now process this transaction, your ledger will be updated, depending on if you've centralized your ledgers or not. I'm going to click on process. But what I want to show you as well is, if you go to ledger reports and select the Excel type financial statements, you will also be able to make your branch selection here and your department selection. I will explain the reporting group option in another session. So if you click on your drop, I can now say, please show me all the transactions for a specific company, a specific department within that company. And then it will only show you whichever report you select here, but the transactions for the specific branch and this specific department. And that concludes looking at dynamic ledger departments.